There are so many reasons to protest at No King's Day 3. What are yours?
Americans have been watching videos of ICE tackling a young mother, tear gas being used in a Chicago residential neighborhood, and the smashing of car windows. Have some of these raids gone too far?
No, I think they haven't gone far enough.
President Trump launched this war of choice against Iran, despite advice he got from a number of senior planners and military leaders.
The Pentagon now preparing to ask Congress for an additional $200 billion to fund the fight.
The Department of Justice has posted
previously missing FBI interviews related to sexual assault allegations against President Trump.
The White House unveiling plans for a massive new ballroom in a rebuilt East Wing.
The Trump administration has initiated funding cuts and stopped research programs they say do not meet the objectives of the administration.
Are ICE agents even remotely trained to handle security at airports?
We could have had TSA paid by the end of the week, but the president said no deals.
I would have the right to do anything I want to do. I'm the president of the United States.
Welcome to the Contrarians coverage of No King's Day. I am your host, April Ryan. Thank you so much for joining me today and joining the Contrarians. We are part of this massive day here in the 50 states, as well as internationally. Millions and millions and millions of people are taking to the streets in nonviolent resistance, in protest of what we are seeing as a dictatorship in this country, the United States of America. That dictatorship is, I don't want to say the name, but Donald John Trump. Now think about this. More than 3,200 protests and growing are out there. And that's according to Indivisible. But let me tell you this. You want to know why we're seeing these protests? Because the rent is too damn high. Gas prices are too damn high. And you know, when I try to make my husband those deviled eggs, I got to count my pennies to make sure I can afford those eggs that the president campaigned on, saying that he would knock down the price of eggs. So welcome again. I am your host, your hostess, April Ryan. For this hour or so, we're going to bring you coverage from all around this country and maybe even beyond. I'm going to tell you, we are in Minnesota. Minnesota is the battleground. That is ground zero, basically, for these protests right now, for this phase of the protest, because this is number 3. And this phase of the protest really is spurred by what happened to Renee Good. What happened to Alex Preddy at the hands of ICE agents who are wearing masks, resembling something of the past in certain communities, without any identification, unmarked cars, and they're allowed to go unchecked with no restrictions. Look at that, Alex Preddy, those memorials to Alex Preddy and also Renee Good. And we're going to have people like the State Attorney General Keith Ellison to come talk with us. Our own Katie Fang is in the streets in Minnesota, ground zero. But we're also going to go to places like Portland, Oregon, and yes, Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. And I'm telling you, this is a moment. And if you want to go back a little bit in the history of this, the moment, the movement started. Remember that parade that the president had for his birthday? It coincided with the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army. Well, that was the first No Kings protest. And then we had another one where the president got so upset. Remember, he had that plane that said King Trump, and then he was so angry at the protesters that he dumped feces on them because they were exercising their right, their God-given American right and privilege to protest, peacefully protest in this nation. And there are thousands, look at those crowds, thousands and millions of people all across the globe saying no to King Trump. Yeah, no to King Trump. That's what he considers himself, no kings. I think we thought that we fixed that early on when the Pilgrims came to America, right? On the Nina Pinta and the Santa Maria, but I guess we got to fight it all over again. But with that said, I want to go to a conversation that Jen Rubin had with Leah Greenberg Leah Greenberg, is one of the co-founders of Indivisible. And they had this conversation earlier this week about just this moment. And guys, let's take a look and see what happened in that conversation.
Coming together across ideology, across issue areas, to their would-be authoritarianism, to their attacks and violence at home and abroad. This is a moment where we demonstrate the strength of the opposition to Donald Trump, and all kinds of actors take notice, right? Every elected who goes to a No Kings rally comes away thinking, I got to fight harder. Everyone who is outside of a No Kings rally on the Republican side thinks, oh, that's a really big crowd. That's a little scary. Uh-oh, things are, the other side is growing. Simultaneously, it's also a massive moment for getting more involved in a host of different ways. If you come to No Kings, you're going to feel a sense of community. You're going to feel a sense of power. You're going to feel a sense of shared identity. And you're also going to find a bunch of new cool people who you can get involved with and continue the fight. So if you are not already involved with a local Indivisible group, local 5051 group, local immigrant rights organization, this is a great opportunity to get into the fight and also continue and sustain in the fight. Because fundamentally, what we're interested in is building the kind of national political power that cannot be ignored and that can flex every day to protect our neighbors, to protect our democracy, to fight for our families.
To fight for our democracies and to fight for our democracy and our families. That's important in this moment. When you go to the gas tank and the price of gasoline is way too high. The price of gasoline is way too high. We're now determining, hey, do I go around the corner to the grocery store to get those high-priced eggs because I can't afford my gas? And then think about this, why is the gas too high? Because we are in a war that Congress did not approve of. Again, No King's Day. And team, I want to go back to, if we can, show what we saw in Philadelphia, because I didn't say Philadelphia, and I want you to see what's happening in Philadelphia as well. And then we're going to go to DC. If we can go back and show what we showed about Philadelphia, what's happening in the streets. Yes, Philadelphia, city of brotherly love. Look at what's happening. All right. That's Philadelphia, PA. Yeah. Now let's check out DC. Let's check out what's happening in DC. Wow. People are in the streets. Dump Trader Trump. Wow. And some of that footage is from our own Jen Rubin, who has been talking to protesters today in Washington, D.C. We're bringing you live and also some footage that we got throughout the day, throughout the country.
Trump has got to go. Hey.
And the irony is the president is not in Washington, D.C. today. He's not seeing this in D.C., in his backyard. That's the irony. The president of the United States is in Florida, as he normally does, spending taxpayer dollars flying back and forth every weekend to go to his home where he has these lavish parties and with all sorts of goodies for people. It's Marie Antoinette, let them eat cake, right? I can live lavishly while you are trying to figure out how to pay for your gas bill, how you are trying to figure out how to put food on the table, and maybe even how to figure out after you lost a job what's happened. And we understand that our Jen Rubin interviewed the executive director of Free DC, and you know what? Let's toss to that interview right now. Let's toss right to that interview. She just interviewed him. Let's
She is a familiar face to many of us in DC. She is the executive director of Free DC.
Hi.
It's wonderful to see you. You are one of the main sponsors of this event. Tell us what your folks are doing and what you hope to accomplish.
Yeah. And so we wanted to take our message and our people straight to where the decision makers really are. So we know on a Saturday afternoon the federal buildings are empty. So today we are actually marching across the Frederick Douglass Bridge to Fort McNair because so much of the White House staff now lives on these military bases where they're getting security for free. This is not something, this is like, Donald Trump's signature on money. It's just something that's never happened before. It's unprecedented. They're living on these military bases. And so that's where we're going today. We're gonna take the whole march right to where they're living.
And I hear Stephen Miller might be living over there?
Well, there's a lot of folks living over there. We don't know exactly where everybody's living, but what I can guarantee you is that we have some very, very large beach balls with Stephen Miller's face with a crown on the head, because I think it's really important for people to know, like, Trump is out there falling asleep at meetings all the time. Stephen Miller is the one that has been behind this quote-unquote safe and beautiful task force in D.C. that's been harassing people, killing people, and then he's also he's the architect behind the entire deportation machine and the detention machine that we see right now. And so it's really important that people start to learn who he is, and that's part of why we're focusing on him today, because we experience all these things we need to defend ourselves from in every community. Here in D.C., it's just been, it's 7 months of a military occupation. And every community is feeling this in different ways, but actually the person behind this has a name, right, and a face, and he's never been elected, he's never been confirmed, and yet he's making these cruel decisions that attack everything from our jobs to our social safety nets to our actual lives.
Well, by the time you see this, folks, we will be over there much closer to whether it's Stephen Miller or the rest of the band of the regime. And I want to thank your folks, Free DC. It has become omnipresent in DC. You see their signs, you see their folks out. It is a masterful job of community organizing. So thanks so much.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me. Good to see you.
Thanks, Jen, with your guest. And again, there was a march from the Frederick Douglass Bridge to Fort McNair. And I want to read you something from Frederick Douglass. I'm cutting part of the passage to give you this. I therefore hate the corrupt slave-holding, women-whipping, cradle-plundering, partial and hypocritical Christianity of this land. Indeed, I look upon it as the climax of all misnomers, the boldest of all frauds, and the grossest of all libels. Frederick Douglass was on point. How many years ago? How many centuries ago? To today. Wow. So now Jen Rubin has been working overtime, guys. She has helped create this great platform, The Contrarian. She is out there trying to get news for you. She was at the Kennedy Center and she talked to some artists about protecting freedoms. Now, the Kennedy Center is in question right now because Donald Trump has put his name on it. And right now it's closed for about 2 years. But there is a question if it could be demolished as well and renovated with his name all over it. Nonetheless, the First Amendment has been under attack. And Jen Rubin, our own Jen Rubin, went to the artists and asked them at the Kennedy Center, what did they think and what did they feel in this No King's Day moment?
What are you doing here?
Hi, I worked at the Kennedy Center for almost 18 years. It's truly gutting. This is a place that means so much. National, local, and global scale. We have always represented arts from all walks of our planet, all walks of our country, and it's truly a voice, many voices going silent.
Any form of censorship strikes a real blow to our literacy, our democracy. Our free speech rights are core to not just to ourselves, but to our government and our society.
Somebody needs to do something, and I think we should all feel positive about how it'll help. If everybody just does a little something, it'll do it.
There's so much work to be done, and hearing from people who have lived through similarly horrific times is edifying and frustrating in equal measure.
People feel very despondent right now that the President of the United States is not only undermining our democracy, he's putting his name on everything. But I want folks to think just a tiny bit into the future, because on January 21st, 2029, mark my words, people will gather outside of this building en masse and a lucky few will be given a chisel and a hammer to chisel those letters off the building. It will happen. It will be a celebration. It's going to happen all across this country.
Turn me around, ain't gonna let no hate and bigotry turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let
nobody turn me round. Turn me round. Turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round. Gonna keep on marching, marching down to freedom land. And this peaceful protesting is part of that. You are exercising your democratic right in this nation to do so. So don't ever let anyone tell you that you're not patriotic in doing so. Let me tell you, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and all those lieutenants exercised exactly what's happening today to give us some of the freedoms that have now been pulled back. But I'm going to tell you, this is a moment that we cannot let slip through our fingers and not recognize its history as this nation is standing up saying, I don't want a dictator. I don't want a king. I don't want a dictator. I don't want a king. And as we say, Minnesota is ground zero right now for the No King's Day March. We could not have State Attorney General Keith Ellison to give us a scene setting for the day, especially as we remember Renee Good and Alex Preddy. Team, let's take a look.
Hey friends, Keith Ellison. No kings, no kings. What it means to Minnesota on March 28th is that with one voice, we will collectively say no to dictatorship, no to one-person rule, no to cruelty from the government, no to no accountability from the government, no to suppression of our democratic rights, including right to freedom of assembly, right to freedom of the press, right to just redress grievances, right to object to unfair wars, the right to say that the law must be followed by everybody, including the president. No kings means that we're simply going to embrace the democratic legacy of this country. Our country, look, when it started, we almost had something close to kings. Only a very select group of propertied landowners who fit certain racial and sexual criteria got to have any say about anything. But over the course of American history, we have marched forward toward a truly multiracial democracy, which is where we are now, which is what the Trump administration is trying to roll back. No kings says we ain't going back. No kings says we're looking for a new birth of freedom for democracy itself. No kings is looking past Trump and looking into a future where everybody can feel that they can rise to the true measure of their talent and their ability and be supported by an affirming society. That's no kings. So I'm very excited about it. It's also a chance to remember some people. I'm not really a t-shirt dude, but Renee Good and Alex Preddy are on my mind today, as Melissa Hortman is on my mind today. And so as we're marching and we're there together, and Minnesota is the focal point of the nation, these wonderful people who gave all for the sake of all are going to be close to my heart and in my mind and in my memory.
Thank you so much, State Attorney General Keith Ellison out of Minnesota. And as we talk about Minnesota and the Twin Cities, let's go straight there. Let's go to Katie Fang, who is on the ground with Ezra Levin, the co-founder of Indivisible. Katie. All right, so we're going to come back and go to Katie in a little bit. But moving forward, we are going to go back and see Katie. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties. Everybody is wanting to show everything at one time. And but we're going to come back to Katie, I promise. But here's what I want to do. I want to go to Janae Nelson. She is the head of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. This woman has been in court at the Supreme Court fighting for your rights. And today, it's all about exercising your rights. Earlier this week, the Contrarian spoke with Janae Nelson, and she talked to us about how critical it is to show up and speak out now more than ever.
I think it's incredibly important that we show up and show out if we, as almost everyone I run into, are concerned about the future of our democracy. What we're seeing is an all-out assault on fundamental freedoms that we have all relied on and assumed were part of being an American in this country. And the right to protest is one of them. And when we don't exercise our rights, when we don't show how valuable they are subject to attack. And so I encourage everyone to find a way to support the No Kings demonstration and rally, because it is one of the few ways that we have to peacefully register our dissent. We have the right to protest. We have a right to vote free from discrimination. And these are tools that we all possess in equal measure. We can all do something, and it doesn't cost us anything to exercise those rights, but it will cost us our future if we don't.
Powerful words from Janae Nelson. Thank you, Janae. She is the head of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. And again, she is in court slaying down dragons, trying to make sure that our freedoms are still in place, trying to make sense out of what is nonsensical in this moment. But nonetheless, I want to move to one of my favorite people, who's been sitting here. I'm so pleased and proud. I wanted to text him and say, I see you watching. It's none other than Mark Morial. Yes, I've seen you. I've been seeing you watching the show. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you.
He is the head of the National Urban League, the civil rights arm, the economic portion of the civil rights movement. And Mark Morial, you have an important space in this moment as everybody's talking about everything is too damn high. Remember that guy who ran for mayor with the white glove saying the rent is too damn high? Well, it's not just the rent, it's everything.
The mortgages are too damn high. The gas is too damn high. The food is too damn high. Everything is high. Good afternoon, Rachel. And let me just, April, I'm sorry. Let me center this on the economic policies that are causing the pain today. Number one, the tariff tax,
yes,
which has created chaos in the American economy. It has added maybe $1,000 to $2,000 to everyone's household expenses because it's a tax on everything that comes in from countries subject to the tariff.
Yeah.
Number two, the big ugly bill, which was a fiscal plan, a spending and a tax plan pushed through by Trump and his allies that shifted money, massive amounts of money, away from healthcare, education, community development, all the way to one, creating an overfunding for ICE and the border control. Two, benefiting, let's be clear, billionaires.
Billionaires.
1,000 billionaires that live in this country, 1,000 of them. And the shifting, this is the biggest transfer of wealth upward in modern American history. And thirdly, the Iran war, which is a war of choice, no authorization from the United Nations, no authorization from the Congress, and all of the consequences. The disruption of the Strait of Hormuz, and the supply chain, not just oil and gas, but all of the items that travel through the Strait of Hormuz have been impacted, and therefore we're going to see a continuing increase in prices, a disruption in supply chains. All of this is hurting you and I, families in America, poor people, working people, middle-class people, damaging them. We now have an economy which went from creating on a sustained basis over 100,000 jobs a month to an economy that's now lost significant jobs over the last several months. This has been a turn of events since January 20th, 2025, the beginning of this administration. And so the protest today and the outrage today is about a range of things. It's about social justice. It's about economic justice. It's about foreign affairs. It's about the Constitution. I've got a copy of the Constitution. I keep this booklet with me everywhere I go. It should be a reminder that this Constitution is being stretched, it's being breached, it's being undermined every day by this administration and its cohorts. So we've got to recognize that where does all of this lead? And I don't want to lose this. This leads to the necessity of participating and energizing in the midterm elections.
Yes.
People have got to understand protests that for protest's sake is not a viable strategy. Protest that energizes people to vote is a viable strategy. So these protests are energizing people. We got to channel that energy.
And we're watching, as you're talking, we're watching protests that are happening today.
Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Mississippi.
Hattiesburg, up the road from our beloved hometown, New Orleans.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, and they're proud. Look at them. They are proud to be talking and shouting and protesting. And I'm not saying Black folks, I'm saying white folks. White people are being hit. This used to be our fight. Tell me, in your opinion, why has the fight switched?
Well, I think the organizers do need to do more to reach out to African-American leaders and African-American elected officials and others. But it's good to see people out there protesting. You know, we usually bear the burden of protests for justice issues. So to the extent that others are involved, make no mistake about it. Just because you don't see Black people out there doesn't mean Black people are not aligned with the sentiment.
That's right.
Let's be clear. The sentiment, because we're living the pain. 300,000 plus Black women out of work. A Black unemployment rate, which has now surged to over 7 to 7.5% from where it was several years ago, down in the middle fours. We are feeling the brunt. We are carrying the burden. So make no mistake about it. No one should be mistaken that because you may not see a lot of Black people in these protests, that Black people are not aligned with the sentiment and weighing in online, weighing in on shows like yours, weighing in at the grassroots level in community across the community after community across the nation. I'm visited. I'm in Miami today. I'll be in Fort Lauderdale tonight. Next week and the following weeks, I'll be in a number of cities: Los Angeles, New Orleans, DC. I've been to Nashville. And what I'm hearing from people is a sense of outrage. What I'm hearing from people is a sense of energy. But that energy has got to lead to massive participation in these elections. We have to be on guard on these efforts to undermine the vote. But right now, we've got to channel this energy into protest and into electoral politics.
So I've got two questions that really just jump out at me for you. Economically, what is the average American being hit with financially when it comes to this president, not a king, this president, since he's taken office? What is the number that you can say?
Let me give you the best I can with the information we have. So I think the tariff, it's easier for one to put their hands around the impact of the tariff. So that's $1,000 to $2,000 per household. It is more difficult, and I'll say I don't have the numbers handy, of the impact of the increase in prices, whether it's rents, mortgages, gas, eggs, bread, food. That's another thing. The third bucket is the increased cost of healthcare and the loss of healthcare by many folks, and the difficulty in getting support for higher education. And then the final and most extreme is the massive job losses
Yes.
that we're seeing in Black America today. And you're going to begin to see it in other parts of the nation too. The job losses. So the pain quotient is made up of those components. And I think we're going to have to ask our economic team to see if they can, I'll come back to you, a more precise number, because this is moving every day. 60 days ago, the Iran war was not on the radar screen. Now, all of a sudden, we're spending $2 billion a day to fund this war. And the United States broadcast media, not you, have not covered the fact that Iran has bombed almost all of our bases in the Middle East. Think about the amount of money it will be required to rebuild those bases. Think about the number of munitions and arms, yet there's been no clarity. But what is the end game here?
What
with
is the
respect
end game
to Iran? And is the end game a realistic end game? Look, this reminds me in some ways of the Iraq War, where we were told and told and told there was weapons of mass destruction. What mass destruction? That turned out to be a fabrication and an exaggeration. Yet many, many, many billions of dollars, the lives of our soldiers, sailors, and airmen were invested in a war that we now know was senseless and useless and ill-advised. And once again, we've got a repeat performance with respect to this war.
And my last question is, I have to wrap with you, and we could talk always, because you put it, what did Joe Madison, our dear friend, our late friend Joe Madison used to say, you put it where the goats can get it. So, but listen, if you had a chance to talk to President Trump, and you've had the ear of many presidents, if you had a chance to talk to this president and ask him one thing on the economy, what would you ask?
I would ask him, does he care?
Ooh.
That 500,000 Black women have lost their jobs. And then as president, what is your responsibility to do something about it? I would ask that question. I mean, does it matter? Does it really matter to you? Because, caring and concern in a leader, I play a leadership role, is the fuel that motivates you to execute policy.
Yeah.
Because you care.
Yeah.
And caring is more than saying I care.
Yeah.
Care is taking steps towards and policy measures that demonstrate you care. And I'll come back whenever you need me. April, I'm proud that you are moving strongly with this show and covering real things on the ground every day.
Well, I appreciate you, and you were the first guest on the T, and
Yay.
I will always, yes. But before you leave,
Yeah.
guys, put up that graph, the Fox News poll of the president, and then you heard all that juxtaposed to, well, not juxtaposed, but you heard everything that Mark Morial had to say. Now, and then this poll happened, but just this week, in the last couple of days, we had the president talking about a daggone Sharpie, right? Instead of talking about Iran, right? And gas prices, he doesn't care. And here's the thing. Red states are also protesting.
Red states are being hurt. Rural hospitals are being hurt.
Yes.
The economy in those states. Farmers have been battered by these tariffs.
White farmers.
Farmers have been battered. See, this is the most important thing, April. The president ran. And for years and years and years, you look at his statements all the way back to the 90s, that the nation had involved himself in too many wars. And he was an anti-war president in many respects, saying we're not going to get ourselves involved in these wars. He promised he'd execute a deal on Ukraine and a deal in Gaza. He promised that he was going to make addressing gas prices and affordability issues. What this president's poll numbers reflect is that the American people believe he's flip-flopped on his promises and commitments. And when you're an elected official, and I know this, you got to take seriously the commitments you made after you get elected to office. And the only rationale for shifting is if you confront a massive, unexpected crisis. This president campaigned against and undid the deal that Barack Obama did.
Yes. He undid everything Barack Obama.
He undid it. And now where are we now? Destroying Iran. The consequences are our military bases are being destroyed. The Straits of Hormuz are being choked. Shell Oil lost one of its major gas plants in the Middle East. You see, when you go to war, there are unintended consequences. You cannot predict the way
And you
people
forgot
will
all about
retaliate.
Venezuela. We haven't even talked about
And we haven't
Venezuela.
talked about Venezuela.
Lord
So
have mercy.
this has been, and look, the architect of this, Pete Hegseth, to me, acts as though he's like a kid on Christmas Day playing with his G.I. Joe soldiers on the floor under the tree.
And never been in the military.
And
like you said,
I
playing with
remember
this
G.I. Joe. You know, we had our little men and we line them up, then we drop something on them. This is not a game.
It's not.
It's serious business. And I'm disappointed because, and I'm distressed. And like many Americans, I'm angered by it. But we got to channel our energy in this moment. This economy can be stronger, can be better. We can have a rational foreign policy that protects our own safety. We can have a just, as Keith Ellison said, we got to remember our objective is a multiracial democracy.
Amen. Mark Morrell, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I was a tomboy. I played with G.I. Joes too.
Yeah.
See you later.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And guys, you know, we had Mary Trump, Donald Trump's niece, on not long ago. And the only person, just to make you aware, the only person in that family that was in the military was his brother, Fred. And the family looked down on him. He was even a pilot, an esteemed position. So that's who we're dealing with. The mentality. He doesn't care. He throws anyone anywhere. He's never been to war. His children, he's got a son, Barron, of draft age, or someone who could go into war. Barron, but hey, that's another story. Anyway, I want to take you to Portland. Travel with me to Portland and Tim Dickerson. Tim Dickerson is a veteran political journalist. He's a senior writer and editor for The Contrarian. And today he's our man on the streets in Portland, Oregon, another space that Donald Trump has targeted with ICE. He spoke to some folks earlier this morning. Let's take a look.
I'm Mary, M-A-R-Y.
And Mary, what brings you out here today?
Just to feel the good vibes and energy and let everyone know we're not accepting what's going on in our government.
And when you have your sign here that says grab him by the Epstein files, obviously there's a big Iran war going on, lots of distractions from the Epstein files. Why is that important to you?
Because I think the president is distracting us from the fact that him and his businesses and people that he's close with are named in the Epstein files over 38,000 times. So I think we're overlooking what's really important, and we need to focus again on releasing all of the Epstein files.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks. Good talking with you.
Thanks so much. Thank you so much, Tim. Again, Tim is a part of the Contrarian team. Look out for some of his pieces. We are supporting everyone who works on this team and who brings us this great information that you're not going to see in other spaces. You're not going to see it in other spaces. So tell your friends, tell everybody to come on over here, subscribe to The Contrarian, subscribe to April, just subscribe, because you are not going to get the kinds of information and news anywhere else but here. And I'm telling you, trust me, I know what I'm saying. All right. So with that said, I have another person that I just adore, whose history, walking history. You can ask him something and he's like, let me tell you. He is amazing. And we are being joined by Dr. Amos Brown. He is a legendary civil rights leader. He is a pastor. He served as president of the San Francisco branch of the NAACP. He also served on the NAACP National Board of Directors. He was on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. In 1961, Dr. Brown was arrested alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. at a lunch counter sit-in. Later that year, he participated in the Freedom Summer as a freedom rider. And also, he worked with the late, great Medgar Evers. This man is walking history, and I adore him. Dr. Brown, we thank you so much for joining us on this historic day of peaceful protesting. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, April, for this opportunity to share with you on this very significant format, enabling the public to know exactly the truth and to be driven by that truth with the moral compass of the struggle that we are involved in. It is ironic that we are having this discussion leading up to Holy Week.
Mm.
And do you know what Holy Week involved, among other things? The Empire of Rome siding with oppression,
wow,
ignoring the poor, and Rome was angry because Jesus stood with the poor. He stood with women.
Wow.
And the soldiers did not go after Jesus when he was in the temple teaching, for, as the scripture says, for fear of the people. The people. The protesters.
How he could galvanize people.
Yes.
Wow. The
They went after
galvanizing.
him when he was in the garden all alone.
That's such an interesting connection. But and that brings me to the next piece about the church. How does the church play? And what has the role of the church been historically in protest? And now what does the role of the church play now? Because we don't necessarily hear a lot of churches involved, but I do see a lot of our Jewish brothers and sisters out on the front lines marching in these spaces, and some of our other brothers and sisters from other faiths. What role does the church play in these nonviolent, peaceful protests?
April, I must invite you to consider the right church. For there are too many fraudulent, hypocritical churches in America.
Yes.
Who are standing with the man who's residing at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And he has pimped the piety of the people.
Pimped the piety of the people. He has pimped the piety of the. Ooh, there you go.
And even he went over to St. John's Church some time ago with a Bible.
Yes. That was the first term. That was the first term during the George Floyd protests. Yeah.
Yes. But he marched over there with the Bible held upside down. So what he has done is use certain preachers in America, unfortunately, who, according to Frederick Douglass of yesteryears, 1852, said, "I love the pure, peaceable, and impartial Christianity of Christ. I therefore hate the corrupt, slave-holding, women-whipping, cradle-plundering, partial, and hypocritical Christianity of this land." And we have too many churches that have been used by Mr. Trump. And there's one brother, I call his name because he was out there, Franklin Graham. He does not stand with Jesus of Nazareth on these moral, liberating, peaceful issues. So I am longing for the day that we can have more persons from all faiths involved in the struggle along with the No Kings movement. For we know the right king, who was the Prince of Peace and was about justice, about love, and concern for the least of those. And that's what is missing today in America.
I'm going to say this. We're going to give you guys a little bit of a scene setter right now. We don't have the visuals because it's so loud, but in Minnesota right now, guess who's singing? Bruce Springsteen. He has announced that he's doing this protest concert tour. He's trying to bring attention to this dictatorship. What is wrong? And we don't have video of it, but I'm letting you guys know that Bruce Springsteen is singing right now. in Minnesota, and he's announced a Land of Hope and Dreams American tour that it kicks off on March 31st in Minneapolis. And going to that, with movements, we think of songs. This movement hasn't had songs. I have not heard the songs of yesterday, or is that kind of strange to you? Does it feel different from yesterday to today?
The music drove the movement.
Mm,
We shall overcome.
yes.
The banner hymn of the liberation movement was our song.
We shall overcome.
Yes, and
We
God is
shall
on our side.
overcome someday. Oh, if in my heart
I do not yield.
I do not live, we shall overcome someday. Black and white together. But go ahead. You got me moving.
And that hymn was inspired by a hymn that was written by this great Black preacher of yesteryears, Charles Albert Tindley, in 1901. It was entitled, I'll Overcome Someday.
Wow.
And Pete Seeger, at the session of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee down in Tennessee, came up with the idea of adopting the melody of that hymn to be the banner hymn of the Civil Rights Movement.
Wow.
And Madam Rosa Parks, who wouldn't give up her seat, was at that meeting.
Wow.
So our movement was emboldened. We received inspiration to face dogs, billy clubs, even dynamite, as we fought for liberation. We were concerned about all peoples, not just Black civil rights, but human rights. Dr. King came out against that Vietnam War. Dr. King was concerned about feeding the poor. Dr. King was concerned about women's liberation. Dr. King even stood up for gay people. For Barrett Rustin,
yes,
was the logistical genius of our
March on Washington.
March on Washington. So we see that the church today needs to be involved with those faith communities that have not forgotten what the civil rights movement was about. It was about the liberation of all peoples.
So do you think we need liberation from this president in this moment?
Definitely. And the only way we can experience liberation is that we must create continuous involvement of No King's protest. Eternal vigilance is the price of success. And we must be consistent and get ready for this midterm election and not let anybody, as one of our civil rights songs said, I ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Keep on marching, keep on walking up to freedom land. We sang that song, but we must not be intimidated by any of the measures that Mr. Trump is trying to get through Congress to disenfranchise our people and take away that right to vote. For we fought long and hard in order that Mr. President Lyndon Johnson signed that voting rights bill in 1965. But this man, Trump, is trying to turn us back by disenfranchising our people and all marginalized folk.
Dr. Brown, I am so thankful that you brought your history, you brought yourself to bear here on the Contrarians live show on No King's Day. We thank you. I'm so thank you. I'm just so thankful that you came. And this is a man, guys, who marched with Dr. King. He was one of the 8 students at Morehouse, the only one class that Dr. King taught. He marched with Dr. King, and he also worked with the late Medgar Evers. You don't get history like this except for here. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You
Keep up
know
the good work.
you know
Always.
what you mean to me. Thank you, sir. So,
All right.
guys, I'm going to tell you, we're going to go back to Minnesota. We're not going to have Bruce Springsteen. I wish we did. But guess who we got? We got somebody better, Katie Fang. Let's go to Katie Fang.
Hey, it's Katie Fang on behalf of the Contrarian and Katie Fang News. I am live at the Minnesota State Capitol. I am joined by Riley, who is one of more than 100,000 people that have come out for No King's Day 3.0 here in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Riley, I understand you're in law school. Is there a certain area of the law that you're very interested in?
Yes, I'm hoping to practice criminal defense.
Which I think is incredibly important these days. Why criminal defense, and why, especially in light of everything that's been going on in your communities, is criminal defense so important?
Because everyone in our great country is entitled to the rule of law and is entitled to their rights being upheld, and it takes each one of us to do that. And so if I can be someone who can stand in the courtroom and stand in front of people to protect those rights, I want to do everything I can to do that.
I'm not surprised by the turnout today because it is Minnesota, but I do want to say, though, that your communities have been under siege. To the people that are watching right now, you know, ICE is still here. It's just not as much publicized as it was before, right?
They are. They're still in our communities. They're still taking our neighbors. They are still wreaking havoc on our state. They've gotten smarter in how they do that and how loudly they do that, but they're certainly still here and still presence.
I've seen a lot of people of different ages, different backgrounds, different nationalities, different genders. They have all joined in today to be here. Why is the sense of community always so strong here?
I think that Minnesota, just in its very core, is a welcoming place and is a place that believes everyone belongs, no matter their race, skin, gender, whatever it may be. And you see that today with everyone who comes out. We just truly love our neighbors and love our communities, and that shines through in everything that we do.
So you're a part of the... What does it mean to you to be standing here and literally
of which I love? It reminds me of the generations that have come before us, and it makes me think of every person who
Guys, we apologize for the signals. There are lots of people on cell phones right now, but Katie always gives the best. And I'm glad she was there to give us some of what the feeling was on the ground, the color. She was there live. And that's what we're doing at the Contrarian today. We are showing up and showing out for you for this No King's Day. This No King's Day rally across the country and internationally. Millions, at least 10 million plus people are protesting against this dictatorship of Donald John Trump for one reason or the other. The protests are real, they're alive, and even after particularly in Washington, D.C., from what I hear, even after the original No King's Day protests, there are going to be some other little fringe protests in reference to this. So guys, if you have not joined some, I'm sure there's some you can still join in your area. And I'm in the Baltimore area, and they're showing up in Baltimore County, in Baltimore City. People are showing up in Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Chicago, and Grant Park. Grant Park, the place where Barack Obama accepted gave his acceptance speech as president-elect for the president-elect for the United States. But before we leave and before I say goodbye to you, I want to thank everybody who came on. And I want to thank Jen Rubin. I want to thank Mark Moriel. I don't even want to keep going. Dr. Brown, Katie Fang. I want to thank the team. Guys, you don't know what it takes to put this thing on. I want to thank everyone. Jen, Lily, everybody, Rachel, everybody that I can see, Ella, everyone, and Corey and Mike, thank you. But I want to, before we leave, I want to take you down 95. I want to take you to Florida, DeSantis land. I want to take you to Palm Beach Garden. This is a place that used to support Donald Trump. Take a look at these visuals. and No King's Day, this is a place that was pretty much majority support of Donald Trump. No questions a couple of years ago. But look now. Ooh, look at it. Look at that. Palm Beach Garden, Florida. And you know, Donald Trump is in Florida. He's at Mar-a-Lago this weekend. I wonder if he hears it. I wonder if he feels it. I wonder if he smells the, what do you call it? The tailgating. I wonder if he senses there's something afoot against him. A non king. That's what it is. A non-king day. No king day. What am I trying to say? People like to call it names, but a non-dictatorship, a non-authoritarianism administration. People do not want a king in this nation. This country was built on democracy, not for a monarch, not for someone to lead with a crown and a gilded cage to sit on a throne. Guess what? Our founding fathers said, we the people, not one, we the people, in order to form a more perfect union. And what we're seeing at Palm Beach Garden and in Philadelphia, in Minnesota, in Chicago, in DC, in Baltimore, and all around the world, it shows that we the people realize that we can come together and knock down a mighty blow against what we're seeing at the White House. My question is, what's Donald Trump going to do when he sees all of this and he feels it and hears it? What kind of AI is he going to come out with this time? When he does that, it shows that he's really upset. Nonetheless, nonviolent protests, No King's Day. It is our pleasure to be here. I'm just telling you, we're going to see you again in a few hours. This is not about dictatorship, non-dictatorship, non-authoritarianism. And I want my East Wing back. I want the Kennedy Center to be the Kennedy Center. I want the Institute of Peace to be just the Institute of Peace. The Institute of Peace, without adding names and things. But here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm coming back in a few hours at 6 p.m. Stay with me. 6 p.m. on the dot. Stay with me in the Contrarian. And then I'll see you at 8:30 p.m. because we got more protests that we're going to take a look at. We got more conversations we want to hear. And this is about you. It's not about us. We are informing you, giving you the information that you need to know about the 47th President of the United States that people don't want. No King's Day. See you at 6. Bye-bye.